WRESTLEDUDE.
The WRESTLEDUDE.
The WRESTLEDUDE.
WRESTLEDUDE.
Hello you guys and welcome to Talking Takeover, the review show for all of your NXT Takeover events of the year. This episode is going to be NXT Takeover Chicago, which took place in Chicago, Illinois. First off, I want to start off by saying Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I know if you're a fan of professional wrestling and you're also a father, I hope that you have a great day. And to those of you who haven't wished your father Happy Father's Day yet, I suggest you do so, especially if they've been there for you. Unfortunately, I haven't been so fortunate as to have that, but nevertheless, we're not here to talk about bad dads. We're here to talk about bad wrestling, to which there was none. So we're going to move on to the good wrestling, which was NXT Takeover Chicago. And also, before we get started here today, don't forget to leave a like on the video. It really does help. And also, kind of share it around on Instagram or Twitter or something like that, just by the random chance that somebody else would want to watch it, and it could definitely help out the channel here. Anyways, enough chit-chat, let's get into NXT TakeOver Chicago, which, like I said, took place in Chicago, Illinois. This is the TakeOver event that will take place the night before Money in the Bank, which Money in the Bank is tonight. I am recording this at 2:49 p.m., so it will be starting up here in a couple hours. So let's get into the first match. Show kicked off with the Undisputed Era versus Big Bald Bastards, or the team I like to call British Bastards. Or actually, no, I call them the Brutal British Bastards because they hit hard and they are brutal. They are British. Well, they're not both British, I don't believe. But they are some crazy bastards. Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch challenging the Undisputed Era's Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong for the NXT Tag Team titles. The one thing that I noticed here throughout the show is I didn't really take as many notes as I usually do, just kind of because I was more focused on the wrestling here in the show, which is a good thing, because in my last couple review videos for TakeOver events, I really do take like detailed notes, and the match stuff, I take it beat by beat. But really, this first match, I only have a couple of notes for it. And if you want to know how I thought of the show overall, my first thing here to write down for this match was just the word awesome. This was awesome. It was hard-hitting. There was a lot of strikes. There was some grappling in there, but all in all, it was more along the lines of just hard-hitting strikes, elbows, kicks, knees, anything and everything under the sun. Strong was doing back crackers, back breakers, neck breakers. Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch were freaking going around and hitting everything and anything and everything. Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. A lot of people said that this was kind of a match thrown together. The same thing with the NXT Championship match. That it was kind of just thrown together, like complete randomness. But in all honesty, I don't care. This was awesome. So, one awesome moment, and this was a little bit into the matchup. Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, they're setting up for a Doomsday Device type maneuver, which they would end up hitting later on. Oni Lorcan goes to the top rope and is stopped by, I believe, Roderick Strong, who shoves him off the top rope, and he doesn't just fall to the floor. He falls, and hits his back on the apron and then falls to the floor, which looked very painful. And I know this because my mom, who walked by, who was not a fan of wrestling at all, looked at it and went, "Oh my god, that guy just broke his back." And I was like, "Probably." And then he got back into the match later on, and she was like, "Is he still standing?" I was like, "Yes, he is, because he is Oni Lorcan, and he is one crazy SOB. And then she said, "Don't cuss." And I said, "I didn't cuss, but I'm sorry." Because I'm good like that. So later on in the match, Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, they do end up hitting their finisher, which is like a Doomsday Device, but Oni Lorcan delivers an uppercut. But Adam Cole puts Kyle O'Reilly's foot on the rope, causing, or no, it doesn't even put his foot on the rope, pulls Kyle O'Reilly out of the ring to stop the pinfall, which the crowd cheered for, even though the Undisputed Era are supposed to be the bad guys. But then again, this is one of those smarky crowds, as a lot of people like to say. So they were really into the Undisputed Era, and they actually booed Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch quite a bit, which kind of threw me off, just because, like, I mean, NXT crowds, they're usually not like that. Like, usually they will cheer the good guy and they will boo the bad guy. But, I mean, it just goes to show you how much people love the Undisputed Era and their whole act. But towards the end of this match, both teams were getting cheered. Like, there was no, like, boos at all. I mean, there were definitely more cheers for the Undisputed Era than there were for Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan. But it wasn't like Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch were getting booed like they were heels, like, towards the end of this match. But the match ended. There was a spot where both members of Undisputed Era were locked in submission holds. Oney Lorcan had a half Boston Crab on Roderick Strong, and Kyle O'Reilly was caught in a crossface. But Kyle O'Reilly rolled over and was looking up at Oney Lorcan and kicked him from the ground in a crossface position to get Roderick Strong out of the submission hold. And then Danny Burch was taken out by Kyle O'Reilly with a running Shining Wizard to the head, and then Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly took out Oney Lorcan with an axe and smash, like, knee strike combination, and then the high-low, which I believe is just like a clothesline and a leg sweep, and then they got the pin off of that. Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch were in the ring afterwards, acting all somber, sad. The crowd gave them a clapping and a standing ovation, because they did really good. This was a really, really fun match. Another highlight from this match from Oney Lorcan, he was on the apron and delivered a double blockbuster to O'Reilly and Strong out to the floor, so that wasn't the only crazy bump that Oney Lorcan did in that match. And actually, that is not the only time in this pay-per-view where we saw somebody deliver a move from the apron all the way down to the floor and possibly hurt their back. That is a running thing in this show. A lot of people taking hard-hitting shots to their back and their spine, but we'll get into that stuff. But yeah, the Undisputed Era retain. All in all, this was a very predictable takeover event, except for maybe the main event with Gargano and Ciampa, which we'll get onto. All in all, really, there were a lot of predictable outcomes, but there were moments in this show where I thought some crazy stuff could happen and some titles could change hand, which I thought the tag team titles could change hands here, but then again, NXT, most of the time, they don't really like to telegraph stuff out unless you can tell, like, well, this person's going to the main roster soon, so they need to lose here. Other than that, there aren't really a lot of moments where you can really tell what's going to happen. Speaking of not being able to see something happening or see something coming, the Velvetine Dream versus Ricochet up next. They had their awesome video package, and then Velvetine Dream came out dressed up as, I want to call it the discount stores discounted version of Hulk Hogan. And I kind of had to look at it again because there was a picture posted of it on Instagram a little bit after the entrance, and I looked at it, and on the shirt it says "Dream Still Over," but he's wearing like a yellow shirt. The shirt is written in red font. He's wearing the friggin' yellow and red boas or scarves around his neck. He's ripping off the shirt in the ring. He's doing all the mannerisms, the flexing, the ear with the hand next to it to the crowd. Like, I don't know why. I'm wondering. I assume it's just because Velveteen Dream is a fan of Hulk Hogan, and I don't know. But it was just kind of weird. It was cool, don't get me wrong. A lot of people were pointing out that his trunks looked a lot like Prince Puma's, which, if you don't know, Prince Puma was another character that Ricochet portrayed on the show Lucha Underground. And people were saying, like, oh, he has similar trunks, which I didn't notice, and once I did notice it and someone pointed it out, I was like, that's a pretty cool beat too. Ricochet, the whole story of this matchup being Velvetine Dream saying, anything Ricochet can do, the Dream can do better. Ricochet came out. He had some cool wings on his back. He didn't do his little moonsault into the superhero landing, which I would understand with a big like cape thing like that. I wouldn't want to try that, otherwise it might get caught up on something and it might tear. So the match goes on. They're doing some grappling and some ground-based stuff, and it's very fun. Ricochet gets sent to the outside over by the ramp, and the Velveteen Dream does a dive to Ricochet, trying to show what Ricochet does. The Dream can do better. Also, earlier in the match, before this happened, the Velveteen Dream delivered a Hurricane Rana, which I don't think we've ever seen him do before. Maybe in like a dark match or a house show or something like that, but on TV, I don't believe we've ever seen the Velveteen Dream deliver a Hurricane Rana, which it was very cool. So yeah, they get back into the ring. Ricochet delivers double dives out to the Velveteen Dream. First he hits a suicide dive through the middle ropes, and then he does like a back-flipping moonsault over the top rope, and they go back into the ring. The match continues. There was a point in the match where Ricochet was on the top rope, and he was trying to, I believe, hit his finisher, the 630, but Ricochet got stopped by the Velveteen Dream, who then hit a top rope cartwheel driver, which looked really cool. Think of it as a attitude adjustment off the top rope, except instead of flipping your opponent like John Cena does, you basically flip with your opponent, and then they land on their back, and you land pretty much on top of them, although the Dream kind of let go before he did the full rotation, but he still looked like he hurt himself pretty bad. So speaking of another spot where someone might have basically broken their back, so Ricochet and Dream are battling up on the top rope yet again, and this is over by the area where the ramp is again, and Dream has Ricochet on the top rope, and Dream is standing on the apron close to possible like where AJ Styles would if he's lining up for the phenomenal forearm, and they're in a superplex position, and it looks like Ricochet is about to superplex Velveteen Dream from the apron from the top rope. Dream reverses it and suplexes Ricochet from the top rope, while Dream, standing on the apron, suplexes him outside onto the floor, and both guys look like they friggin' hurt, and Ricochet gave off the impression that he just broke his frickin' tailbone, which I'm pretty sure he might have, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on NXT TV for a couple of weeks. But I literally put here in my notes, Ricochet might have broken his tailbone, which goes to show you how painful that moment looked. There was a really close 10 count. I thought for a second there that might have taken both guys out, and Ricochet milked this for all it was worth, because the referee was at a count of 9, and Ricochet was still flat on his back, and as the referee was about to hit 10, Ricochet pounced up to his feet and went back into the ring, and that kept the match going, which I'm really happy. I would have really been disappointed if they had just like ended it right there, because I really thought this was starting to get good. So the match continues. They do a whole yay boo spot where like the good guy will punch the bad guy, the crowd will cheer yay, the bad guy will punch the good guy, the crowd will cheer boo. They continue on with that. Velveteen Dream gets the advantage later on and starts trash talking Ricochet, saying you should go back to the bingo halls, but then Ricochet out of nowhere lifts up the Velveteen Dream into his own cartwheel Death Valley driver, slams him down, goes to the top rope. Ricochet hits his own version of Velveteen Dream's Purple Rainmaker elbow, but only for a 2 count. Ricochet once again goes up to the top rope trying to hit the 630, but the Velveteen Dream rolls out of the way. He rolls to the center of the ring because in order to hit Ricochet's finisher, Ricochet has to have his opponent very, very close to the corner. So Ricochet looks at this and starts to get down from the top rope, is like, you know what, I can't hit this. But then he thinks, and he's like, you know what, I can do this. And then he goes back up to the top rope and hits a shooting star press, kind of like how Brock Lesnar was supposed to hit his shooting star press at WrestleMania, although Ricochet didn't mess up and almost break his neck here. But Velveteen Dream did get his knees up, so Ricochet's jaw pretty much rams right into Velvetine Dream's knee, which I'm pretty sure Dream doesn't wear knee pads underneath. So basically, a man's jaw fell from the sky onto another man's knee at full force. So you can probably guess not only is Ricochet's tailbone probably broken, but he's probably going to need some dental work as well. And apparently socks, because some people think that Ricochet doesn't wear socks. I don't know where the heck that came from. Oh no, wait, that was from a segment on NXT where some crowd member noticed that he was wearing like footsie socks or foot socks, so no one thought that he was wearing socks. Anyways, continuing on with the match. So Dream gets advantage. Ricochet is all the way in another corner, and Dream climbs up to the top rope, and it looks like Dream. At first, I thought Dream just went to the wrong corner, but then he looks at Ricochet and is like, you know what, Ricochet, this is the whole story of the match. Velveteen Dream says, anything Ricochet can do, I can do better. And he sees Ricochet all the way across the ring, and Ricochet thinks, you know what, you want to hit a shooting star press from halfway across the ring? Fine, I'm going to hit my purple Rainmaker elbow, Xavier Woods style, all the way across the ring. And he goes for it, and he misses, and that sets up Ricochet to hit his 630 and get the pin. Ricochet defeats the Velveteen Dream here. This was a really good story in the match, and it was definitely a good way to end the match, where Dream basically lost because of everything he says, and that's anything Ricochet can do, the Dream can do better. And in the end, he tried to do it better than Ricochet. Ricochet moved, Ricochet takes advantage, Ricochet wins. And I think this was good. I think this was a really good first program for Ricochet. A lot of people have been saying that the Velveteen Dream needs a big win at TakeOver rather than his victory over Cassius Ohno. I would agree. I'm not sure where either of these men are going to go to next. I would assume maybe Ricochet goes into the NXT North American Championship picture, but that remains to be foreseen. Although there's another person that could quite possibly be in that picture, and that is who we're going to talk about next here. This might not have happened at this point in the show, but I'm just going to bring it up here. Keith Lee was in the crowd, which if you don't follow independent wrestling a lot, then you probably don't know who Keith Lee is. I would suspect that a lot of people didn't know who this was, unless you're a big wrestling fan. So if you don't know who Keith Lee is, first of all, where are you? He is a big man. Think of him as a refrigerator who can do moonsaults. That is how I would describe it. A moonsaulting refrigerator. He's a big man, and if you just look up anything like highlights and moves that he does on YouTube, you will be surprised as to how good this guy is. And I'm very excited that he's in NXT. He's the guys over at WrestleTalk TV, they're a big fan of him. I believe he also did an intro for them where he says, like, support Ollie, support Luke, support WrestleTalk, and bask in their glory. So it'll be very fun to see what he does in NXT. Up next, we have what I believe probably would be the least interesting match on the show. This was Shayna Baszler versus Nikki Cross for the NXT Women's Championship. First thing I noticed was that Nikki Cross had some updated graphics, which looked pretty cool. Kind of reminded me of like a horror game graphics. Like it had eyeballs all over like the little Sidetrons. It had Nikki Cross's name and like some cool font where it looked like it had been like scratched into the Titantron. It looked very cool. Shayna Baszler had some new attire. It's always nice to see some people who have cool attires, which not only were these two had some cool attires, but later on in the night, Johnny Gargano had some cool attire that we'll talk about here. My first note of the match here, Nikki Cross is crazy, and I love it. And oh, yes, she plays her character very well. This match started off Shayna Baszler starting to square up to Nikki Cross, but Nikki Cross is standing perfectly still, and Shayna Baszler tries to like punch her, make Nikki Cross flinch. Nikki Cross doesn't move at all, and Nikki Cross dares Shayna Baszler to put the sleeper hold on her, and basically turns around And Shayna Baszler like walks up to her, trips her up, and then Nikki Cross starts like freaking out on the mat, like laughing. And so Baszler, they're fighting. It spills to the outside. Nikki Cross jumps onto Shayna Baszler's back and puts like a little sleeper hold on her, kind of like if you would imagine in a cartoon a monkey attacking a human, how they would like jump up onto their shoulders and start like smacking them on the head and like having their arm around their neck. And Baszler is up by the ramp, turns around and basically just falls backwards onto the steel part of the ramp. So once again, a spot where it would probably really hurt your back, and Nikki Cross gets laid out on that steel part of the rampway. So they get back into the ring. This is where something weird started to happen. I started noticing there were parts of the crowd that were like looking off somewhere else. So apparently something else was happening in the crowd. Like, I don't know, maybe like somebody brought a beach ball, which I really hate when that happens at wrestling events, especially NXT, because NXT is so good. I feel like it deserves a lot more respect than that. Or maybe, I remember during a Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar promo, somebody proposed. Maybe it could be like a drunk person that got thrown out and like started fighting with security. I don't know, but something was distracting a lot of the crowd, which kind of sucked. But I was paying attention more to the match. Nikki Cross was on her knees, and Shayna Baszler started delivering running knee strikes. So think Kinshasas to the face, but Nikki Cross just no-sells it and is just laughing the entire time. Goes for a fourth one. Nikki Cross catches the knee and like throws it off, and Cross starts to deliver her comeback moment, and then this turns into a reverse DDT, so think Scorpion Death Drop by Nikki Cross to Shayna Baszler onto the apron. So another apron spot here, and that one looked very painful. I think we've seen that happen before, but I could be wrong. And Nikki Cross gets Shayna Baszler set up for her finish, gets her up on the top rope into a suplex neckbreaker. Although when Nikki Cross makes the pin, Shayna Baszler's foot is too close to the ropes. Baszler puts her foot on the rope, gets the rope break. Nikki Cross tries to take advantage again, but Baszler gets her into the sleeper hold. And the way Nikki Cross passes out here is she's basically like kind of like flailing her arms in the way an orchestra conductor would, and she's smiling the entire time. And as Nikki Cross is passing out, her smile fades. Nikki Cross passes out, and then Nikki Cross stops smiling. So Nikki Cross is knocked out, but she's still smiling. And then Shayna Baszler obviously wins as Nikki Cross passes out. Baszler retains the NXT Women's Championship. I could definitely see Nikki Cross maybe staying in NXT for a little bit longer, but not in the title picture. I would see Nikki Cross as a person to help get the next challenger over, which I believe would be Dakota Kai. I could see Nikki Cross being Dakota Kai's like teacher, like, you gotta toughen up, man. And then Shayna Baszler takes out Nikki Cross on an episode of NXT, and then that gets us into Dakota Kai versus Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship for TakeOver Brooklyn 4. And then we could see Nikki Cross go to the main roster with the rest of Sanity, which I really believe is where we should go for now. Up next, we have the NXT Championship match between Alistair Black and Lars Sullivan. Once again, a great video package. So this match, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are just going to be talking about one instance in this match. I'm not going to talk about that until we get to it. But the match starts off, Lars Sullivan and Alistair Black, they're face-to-face. They're doing a little bit of bad-mouthing. And then Lars, they go into like some striking sequences. Lars Sullivan tries to go for the freak accident. Alistair jumps out. Alistair Black tries to go for the Black Mass. Lars catches it with one hand once again, which takes very great precision by Lars Sullivan not to catch it too early or too late, and to do it with, I think he did it again with one hand, so that is some very good precision. Too bad he didn't have that much precision later on in the match when it comes to catching maneuvers or even facing the right way. So they're on the outside. They're doing some outside attacks. Lars Sullivan is on the floor. Alistair Black is on the apron, and he runs and does double high knees and lands on Lars Sullivan, while he screams, I believe, something in Japanese or Chinese. I don't know. Alistair Black just says like this really high pitched like thing. I don't know. I'd have to go back and rewatch it to see exactly what he says, and I'm not gonna try and recreate it here because it's gonna sound really racist. But he just says like this weird battle cry before he like delivers the knees, which a lot of wrestlers do that, and if it's high pitched, I don't know why, it just sounds funny to me. So anyways, we get back into the ring. Well, no, Alistair gets back up. He's on the top rope now. Lars is starting to get back to his feet. Alistair tries to deliver a standing moonsault to Lars Sullivan, but Lars catches him on his shoulders into a power slam position and then drops Alistair Black onto the apron into a snake eyes onto the apron. And then they go back into the ring. Lars is continuing his attack on Alistair Black and, more importantly, his legs, trying to take away that Black Mass finishing maneuver. Lars Sullivan locks in a Brock lock, so he's continuing to try and hurt Alistair Black's legs. Once again, another apron move here. Lars Sullivan hits a massive power slam onto the apron, which, once again, another maneuver that will probably hurt your back very, very bad. And then he delivers a top rope headbutt, but only for a 2 count. The match continues, and then we go into the finish where Alistair Black fights back and tries to hit a Black Mass, but Lars is turned around. He's not looking at Alistair Black, and Black tries to go for the Black Mass, slaps his leg to make the whole, like, the smacking sound, but Lars Sullivan is like a foot away from him, so he is in no vicinity to where he would hit Lars Sullivan, and Lars still falls down to try and sell the Black Mass, and then Alistair goes into the pin and Lars kicks out, which kind of sucks that we didn't get that big moment of like, oh my god, somebody's kicked out of the Black Mass, which technically it wasn't even a Black Mass, it was just the wind of a Black Mass that knocked Lars Sullivan over. But the commentators were still trying to cover for it. The crowd wasn't really that forgiving, considering they said, like, you effed up, which, I mean, oh well, it was one little mess up, oh well. But they went into another sequence where Alistair gets caught. Lars tried to go for the freak accident again. Black counters and hits Black Mass, and Lars Sullivan gets hit full on with the Black Mass and starts to stand back up, and he's on one knee, and Black looks at him and delivers like another scream, but it's like an angry scream, and delivers another Black Mass to Lars Sullivan as Lars Sullivan is kneeled down on one foot, and then Black gets the pin off that. Alistair Black wins and retains the NXT Championship. The real question here is, who does Alistair Black face next at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4? My money is on EC3. They haven't really done much with him, which I believe they're trying to make him the new, like, Bobby Roode of NXT, since Bobby Roode isn't in NXT anymore. They want EC3 to be that new Bobby Roode, which I think could work very well. But yeah, this was very good, all apart from that one little mistake. A lot of people believe that Lars Sullivan shouldn't have been in this NXT Championship match. I disagree. Just because I'm a big fan of Lars Sullivan, I think he's awesome, and the flailing around that he does after he hits like a big running strike, I really think plays into that whole like gorilla-esque like fighting style. He basically fights like if he's a gorilla and he's in a wrestling ring, and it really does help that like he has minimal gear. He just has these blank red trunks. At some point, I feel like it'd be cooler if he switched to black trunks. I don't know why, I just feel like he'd look cooler in black trunks. Maybe, like, just with the name Lars across the front of it. I don't know. But, yeah, very minimal gear, just has some black boots on, red trunks. He has some, like, wrist tape. I know he used to not have wrist tape, which I feel like also played into that whole gorilla-esque character. But, I mean, probably at some point he didn't want to mess up his wrists. So, yeah, that was a great NXT Championship match, apart from the one little mess up, but I wouldn't really think about it that much. And it'll probably be edited off the network here soon. But up next, we have our main event. Before our main event, we had Johnny Gargano, who was dressed up as Captain America, or as my brother liked to say, he was dressed up as the Nomad from Avengers Infinity War. And then Candice LeRae comes out of nowhere and produces the crutch, the broken crutch from Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa's last match. She hands it to Johnny and says, "Kick his ass." So Candice LeRae gets Wife of the Year award. And for a second there, I was thinking about this. I was like, oh my god, they're going to have Candice LeRae turn heel on Johnny Gargano. They're going to have Johnny Gargano's wife betray her husband. And I was like, no, they can't do that. That's not going to happen. So Johnny Gargano comes out. Like I said, he's dressed up as Captain America. Tommaso Ciampa comes out, once again, to his no music. And they're both dressed up in street clothes just because it's a street fight. So Johnny Gargano's got on pants and his Johnny Wrestling red t-shirt. Tommaso Ciampa comes out. He's wearing his camo pants, camo wrist tape, which I thought was really cool. He has a camo crutch, which is pretty cool. And he has this, like, I think it's a custom-made t-shirt of, like, Avengers Infinity War, where it shows him as Thanos, and then it has, like, all the Marvel characters, but, like, they look like Johnny Gargano, and they're all, like, fading away from the snap, which I thought was pretty cool. Probably not going to be on a Pro Wrestling Tee stores or anything like that, which kind of sucks. But then again, it does kind of make it a little bit more special. Like, wow, this is the only time we're going to see this. This is cool. But yeah, both men have awesome attires. The match starts, they start brawling, and it immediately goes out into the crowd where there is a fan in a Johnny Wrestling t-shirt holding a Johnny Wrestling sign, and Ciampa takes the sign and tries to rip it, but he can't, which at first I'm thinking, like, well, maybe it's just made out of really hard cardboard. But Gargano gets advantage, gets Ciampa down on the ground, gets the sign from the fan, and the fan says, like, use it, and Gargano, like, takes the actual paper off, and it's two pieces of paper taped back to back to a freaking stop sign, which tells me that the security in what I believe was the Allstate Arena in Chicago, the security from the Allstate Arena is terrible if they can't tell that a sign, if a freaking person has tried to sneak in a stop sign and try to use it as a sign in the crowd. That is some very crappy security. But Gargano uses the stop sign as a weapon. He does a big dive off the stage to Ciampa. They get back in the ring. More weapons get used. But Ciampa takes advantage. He has wrist control, and he starts delivering like multiple German suplexes, which obviously get the Suplex City chant. A lot of focus Ciampa takes. Ciampa focuses on Gargano's neck a lot, considering that's what happened in the initial attack that Ciampa did. Like, he delivered the maneuver, the white noise off the stage to the table, hurting Gargano's neck. Gargano was in a neck brace, so obviously Ciampa is targeting Gargano's neck. We get multiple German suplexes, but Gargano comes back and hits a big outside dive, tope suicida, as Mauro Ronaldo said, which also, he wasn't on the show tonight. They replaced him with, I think his name's Vic Joseph from 205 Live, which he did pretty good. I kind of didn't even notice the difference between Mauro and him, except for when no one was screaming Mamma Mia. Oh, there I go again. Oh my, I lost my place. Oh, that wasn't on purpose, saying that pun. So anyways, they're fighting on the outside. Gargano hits that big dive, but Ciampa gets advantage somehow, and he takes the steel stairs, and he takes them away from where they're usually positioned at that ring post, and sets them right up against the side of the ring that's closest to the ramp. And these come back later on. Ciampa grabs a steel chair and wraps it around Gargano's neck and launches him into the stairs, continuing his attack on Gargano's neck, which the last time we ever saw that chair spot, I believe, was with Shane McMahon before WrestleMania when they teamed with Daniel Bryan. Or maybe even it was when they wrote Chris Jericho off TV. So those two times, that spot was used to write someone off of TV. Here, it was more of just a transitional thing, which I don't really think it hurt it that bad, just because this is a real blood feud. And Gargano and Ciampa, like, I'm pretty sure most of this match they just fought each other on adrenaline alone, which Ciampa tried to take out the adrenaline from Gargano by producing handcuffs from under the ring, which was very interesting. I assume that Ciampa put those under there earlier in the day. Johnny Gargano somehow gets advantage and then gets Ciampa on the ground, stopping him from using those handcuffs, and produces a belt. He takes his belt off and starts whacking Ciampa in the back with it, getting Ciampa down to his knees. Ciampa is down on his knees. Gargano takes a steel trash can, puts it over Ciampa's head, and Ciampa's still on his knees. Gargano goes into the corner and delivers the DIY-style super kick into the head. Ciampa obviously didn't see it because he has a big trash can over his head. But Johnny Gargano only gets a 2 count. Gargano goes in again to try and go after Ciampa, but Ciampa takes advantage, gets the reversal. Ciampa delivers a Ciampa bomb, or Project Ciampa, the power bomb lung blower. I just call it a Ciampa bomb. But Gargano is able to kick out. So Tommaso Ciampa takes the trash can lid and delivers a knee strike to Johnny Gargano's head multiple times with the trash can lid in the way of his knee. So not only does it have the force of Ciampa's knee brace, but it also has that trash can lid. So the fight continues, and Ciampa delivers a white noise from the apron onto the steel stairs that were positioned next to the ring, closest to the ramp. That, once again, looked like it hurt somebody's back. And I'd say it was Gargano's, but trust me, Gargano got some revenge on Ciampa's back later on in this match. So Ciampa continues his mission to destroy John Gargano by destroying the ring. He goes under the ring and gets like some clippers, some hedge clippers it looks like, and he starts clipping off the ropes to the ring canvas, and he exposes the wood that's underneath the ring. And this comes back later on in the match. So Ciampa continues his attack, and he sees the exposed wood, so he puts Gargano up on the top rope in position where the exposed wood is, and he tries to deliver a top rope white noise, but Gargano counters and gets his head stuck in the corner and delivers that package super kick where a person's position and like his head is tucked underneath, like he's staring down through his legs, and Gargano super kicks him in the head. And the match continues on. There were really a lot of pinfalls after these big moves because both of these men just want to beat the living crap out of each other, which they do because both men take some weapons and they start smacking each other with them. They're like bam, bam, slam, bam, wow. The match continues on. Ciampa takes advantage though. Ciampa gets Gargano down, and Gargano's on the outside next to the steel stairs. Ciampa once again tries to go for a running knee strike, but Gargano moves out of the way, and Ciampa's knee gets sent right into the steel stairs. So Gargano goes right back into the ring, and Gargano tries to lock in the Gargano escape. Ciampa, though, reverses, and Ciampa almost gets Gargano into an STF with the crutch over his face. So in the last match, Gargano won using the knee brace across the face and an STF. This time, Ciampa tried to use an STF with the crutch, but Gargano obviously fought through it, and so Ciampa tried to put down Gargano by ramming the part of the broken crutch into the back of the neck of Gargano, so once again targeting that head and neck area, but Gargano kicks out at 2, and Gargano is helpless. He's just walking, he's crawling on the floor outside next to the ramp, so Ciampa lifts him up and kind of does like the spot from NXT Takeover Chicago 1, where they're walking up the stairs, repeats the spot where he tosses him into the LED board, which I thought was going to be reversed, and Gargano sends Ciampa into the LED board, but no. Ciampa sends Gargano into the LED board, delivers a knee strike, and then they start brawling over to a technical area where they see two tables that are set up, and Ciampa drags Gargano to the top of these like equipment boxes that are super high above these tables, and Ciampa takes off Gargano's wedding ring, and he spits on it, which is disgusting, and then he throws the wedding ring, which kind of sucks, but is also a really cool move for a heel to do, which Ciampa is a great heel. Ciampa tries to deliver white noise to Gargano, but Gargano surprisingly gets Ciampa up onto his shoulders into his own white noise, runs and jumps off of the equipment boxes and delivers white noise through the two tables, which once again, like I said, Gargano hit his back on those steel stairs. I told you Gargano would get that revenge, and indeed he did, because not only did Ciampa go through those two tables, but Ciampa's back and probably his neck and head land right onto that concrete floor all the way from the freaking top of those equipment boxes. So this goes into a part where officials and doctors and stuff start coming out, and they're calling for a neck brace for Ciampa, and they get Ciampa into a neck brace and put him on a stretcher. And meanwhile, Gargano, as you're seeing here in the thumbnail, Gargano's sitting on top of this equipment box, obviously not with the same expression as I have on my face there, but he looks at his hand and he's like, "Where's my wedding ring?" And he's like, "You son of a bitch, you took my wedding ring." So he goes and he starts attacking all the doctors and stuff, and there's these guys in suits from the back that are trying to keep Gargano away from Ciampa. But Gargano gets Ciampa on the stretcher, and Ciampa's tied to the stretcher. Ciampa is rolled down to the ring by Gargano and put back into the ring, and Gargano continues his attack on him, and the officials try to stop him. And the officials get beaten up by Gargano. Gargano takes the handcuffs and handcuffs Ciampa, and once again puts in the Gargano escape. Ciampa's tapping, but for some reason there's no referee around, which is my first little thing of like, what the heck. And then Gargano obviously has Ciampa handcuffed still and delivers like half a dozen super kicks to his face from the corner, and Ciampa is freaking somehow still like kneeling, but he's getting kicked in the face over and over again. Maybe his beard was cushioning him enough. But once again, the guys in the suits try to stop Gargano, and they get Gargano out of the ring, but Gargano is still fighting them off and gets them all off, and Ciampa's trying to scurry away. Gargano goes around to the left side of the ring, up onto the apron, and Ciampa stops him, gets him into the Randy Orton style draping DDT, and DDTs Gargano onto the part of the ring where the hard wood was exposed. So once again, targeting that neck of Gargano. So like I said, DDT onto the hardwood. Ciampa is handcuffed, and now the referee shows up out of nowhere. Apparently he was getting held back by the guys in the suits too, but Ciampa tells the referee to count 1, 2, 3. Ciampa beats Gargano with a DDT onto exposed wood. It was too much on the neck of Gargano. The last note that I have here of NXT TakeOver Chicago is Johnny got screwed. But before that, I put the crowd was completely silent when that happened, because Tommaso Ciampa, he has no music, so his music is just this dead silence in his victory, and like all these shots of people in the crowd like going, "Oh my god, I can't believe that happened." Like I said, this main event could have gone either way. Ciampa or Gargano could have won, and I feel like it would have been good either way. But just the sheer silence of this, and Ciampa like getting those handcuffs off, and like he was on the stage doing this whole the big waving goodbye thing, and Gargano's out from all the pain on his neck and stuff. Candice LeRae comes out and is looking at him and helping him out. The doctors once again come and are taking care of Gargano. But yeah, Johnny Gargano got screwed here because, yeah, Tommaso Ciampa tapping out like twice towards the end there, and nobody was around to friggin' count the submission victory. So in my mind, Gargano won that match, but I mean, obviously in the record books it's going to show Tommaso Ciampa won. But I didn't think that they would be able to top their first match. I watched the first match a little bit before TakeOver Chicago 2 came on, and I had high hopes for this, and indeed they exceeded it. That white noise by Gargano off the top of those equipment boxes through the tables made me freaking grab my back just because it looked painful as hell. All in all, this was a great NXT TakeOver. Chicago 2 will definitely go down as one of the weaker TakeOver events, but it had strong stuff. Just because there's been so much great NXT stuff this year from the other TakeOver events. If you go back and watch my reviews of TakeOver Philadelphia, TakeOver, what was the other one? TakeOver New Orleans, like a lot of great stuff. But all in all, this was a great show, and it just goes to show you how good it was just because I took very minimal notes just because I was so focused on the action and stuff. But Ciampa and Gargano may continue. If it does continue, I hope their last match is inside the first ever NXT Hell in a Cell match. I feel like that's where this needs to end. EC3 versus Alistair Black for the NXT Championship is probably where they're going to go next. Keith Lee's in NXT. Undisputed Era are going to face off against British Strong Style, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven. Nikki Cross might be going to the main roster. Shayna Baszler is going to have a new challenger soon. I'm excited to see where that goes. But yeah, NXT delivers again, and I've got high hopes for Money in the Bank tonight. Definitely going to be excited. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like on the video if you haven't already. Comment your favorite part of NXT TakeOver Chicago. I know a lot of you are probably going to pick that main event, but let's have some variety. And follow me on all social media. You can find the links on my YouTube channel page, and subscribe if you enjoy what you've heard. I have been Jacob, the one and only WRESTLEDUDE, here on the WRESTLEDUDE YouTube channel, and I will see you guys in the next NXT TakeOver review, which will be before SummerSlam, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. So I will see you for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. This has been Talking TakeOver with Jacob from the WRESTLEDUDE channel. I will see you guys next time. And don't forget to be safe.